Good evening, Assalamu alaikum rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, and welcome back to Hilaal Live. We'd like to thank you, the viewer, for staying with us, and I'd like to also thank my colleague Lukman Shadrack for taking you through that first 1 hour. Now, of course, one of the big political stories of yesterday was that ousted ANC Secretary General Ace Magashule announced the launch of his new political party, marking his return to politics ahead of next year's general elections. 3 months after he was expelled from the African National Congress, the party's former SG announced the formation of his political organization, the African Congress for Transformation, once again adding to the congestion of many political parties South Africa has. Joining us now to discuss this is political analyst Dr. Levy Ndou. Dr. Ndou, thank you so much for joining us here on Hilaal Live.
Good evening to you. Good evening to the viewers at home. Thank you for having me.
Now, it's an absolute pleasure. Dr. Ndou, how much more political parties can South Africa have? And then we just get the former SG of the ANC saying, hey, I'm going to throw my hat into the mix to also have a political party.
We appear to be moving towards a greater number of political parties in South Africa. And I want to tell you that I think this is the season where we get a lot of political parties being formed, because the trend that we have in South Africa is that few months towards the elections, that's where we get a lot of parties to be formed, because there is a lot of political excitement out there. There are a lot of people who are undecided, and I think politicians would love to take advantage of that situation, form political parties in an attempt to grab few seats in the national or the provincial legislature.
Dr. Ndou, wasn't he supposed to team up with his good friend Carl Niehaus? I mean, they were as thick as thieves, as one would say. Pardon the final word of that, thick as thieves. But, I mean, they were supposed to be together, weren't they? I mean, it was heading that way.
Most people expected that. Yeah. But I think because Carl Niehaus started his own movement earlier, it might have frustrated the plans of Mr. Magashule. Mr. Magashule has been in the leadership positions in the ANC for quite some time, whilst he was in the Free State province and later elected as Secretary General. I think he's quite used to a situation where he is leading, he does not take instructions from anyone, and he's the one who is in charge of the processes and activities in the party. I was not expecting him to go and join another political party, because he was going to start very low as a member, having to follow on what the leadership says, which is something that is not used to. And I think the best option that he took was to say it's better for him to form his own party. Other people might join him, or he'll have to mobilize people that will move the party forward with him.
Dr. Ndou, burning in Tlemeza, I mean, this was something out of the ordinary. I don't know if you expected it, but I mean, a lot of us were like, wow. Okay, I mean, this guy, we know that he just did not have a very bright past with Hawks. I mean, burning in Tlemeza, what does he really actually bring to the party?
When you launch a party, you try your best to ensure that you bring in people that might have influence, people that might have a following, or people that might add a lot of value onto the party. But if you look at Mr. Tlemeza, it's someone who has indeed been in government for quite some time, even though he did not do very well or do as expected. But life has to go on. When someone comes onto you and show you something that appears to be lucrative, something that you can easily buy onto, you actually join in. And indeed, I never expected that we're going to see Mr. Tlemeza coming back as a politician. And here he is now. And I think what we need to do is to watch the space and look at the impact that both Magashule and Tlemeza can make in the body politic of South Africa.
Dr. Ndou, I want to start with the obvious constituency that Magashule has, that is, of course, the Free State Province and in Parys. And there's still people who have admiration for Mr. Magashule because his struggle credentials are there for all to see. The ANC still has its foothold within the Free State. Yes, a couple of months ago we saw burning of ANC T-shirts that happened within the province. But now with this political party, does Mr. Magashule walk into the Free State Province and supposedly command the sort of support he would hope for?
Well, I think there are some dynamics we need to look at. When you were once a leader in the province and you have led up to the maximum period, the natural thing is that you need to get out of the province because other people has to come in and lead. And that is what happened with Ace Magashule and other leaders who were once provincial leaders. He might have calculated that he still has support in the Free State, but what has to be tested is as to whether the support he had was based on the fact that he's in the ANC, and now that he's in another political party, would he therefore get the same support that he got from the people in the Free State? Another dynamic we need to look at is that when Mr. Magashule was a leader of both the ANC and government in the Free State, he made a lot of friends, but equally, he also made a lot of political enemies. And it is not a foregone conclusion that he can get sufficient support in the Free State. He will have to work very hard if he wants to win the entire Free State province. But another area that we need to look at is that it is not only the Free State. He has formed a political party. South Africa is a vast country. Cape to Messina, Lephalale to Gqeberha, that is a very vast area to cover. And in the next few months, Mr. Magashule should have been able to build solid structures in the different provinces if he indeed wants to make an impact in the 2024 elections.
Dr. Ndou, politics has no retirement to it. I mean, you could serve till, heck, you even 90 or 95. Mr. Magashule himself is not as young as he would hope to be. So when he's speaking to whoever he's speaking to in terms of constituencies and in terms of the support structure, what would he be looking at? Would he be looking at the elders or would he be looking at the youth? Because it seems that the youth of this country are moving more towards maybe looking at the EFF or the DA or Action SA as political parties that can speak to their demands and their needs here in South Africa.
Well, when I was looking at the people who were surrounding him, I could see that these are older people who are part of this organization. My sense is that he might have gone all out to look at the people that are not happy in the different political parties. And I'm happy that is what he announced. He said, those who feel not properly treated in their different political parties, he will therefore have to approach them so that they actually come and join his party. What is interesting about South African politics is that we hardly get new people. It is the very same people who move from one organization to the other and they form new political parties. The message remains the same. And I think it is time that our politicians, when they form new parties, they should bring in a new message and which will actually bring a new identity to the political parties that are there. At the same time, my expectation is that if Mr. Magashule has to become relevant to South African body politic, he should go all out, deliver a message that will be acceptable to all different ages in South Africa, because the only thing that Mr. Magashule and all other political parties are focusing on now are numbers that will give them seats, both in the National Assembly and in the provincial legislatures.
Dr. Ndou, one final question. The EFF was the rarity when obviously Julius Malema had left as the NC Youth League president just over a decade ago. And we've seen the explosion of the EFF within the political landscape. COPE did not succeed. Is this new political party of Ace Magashule going to suffer the same fate as COPE? And if that's going to be the case, how does he now move away from suffering that same fate and trying to at least find some sort of relevance within South Africa's political landscape?
It will mainly depend on the message that he has to send out there to the people, and also depend on how ordinary citizens respond to his message. When Mr. Malema was expelled from the ANC, the ground was ready for him, because you had the ANC Youth League that was not in existence. You had the EFF that was championing issues that are very close to the hearts of young people. That is what Mr. Magashule has to do with his targeted constituency. Send the message that people will feel that it would be the home that they can rely on, and at the same time, ensure that structures that are solid across the Republic are actually being built. It is not going to be an easy way for Mr. Magashule, because he should be psychologically prepared, he should be financially prepared, and also at the same time, he should have sufficient energy to cross all over the Republic of South Africa, selling his party before the elections next year.
It remains to be seen whether it is cold outside the ANC in Ace Magashule's case, or will it be warm for him? Dr. Levy Ndou, thank you so much for joining us here on Hilaal Live.
You're always welcome. Thank you so much.
That's political analyst Dr. Levy Ndou. After the break, I'll be speaking with Remaji Hoinati. He is a researcher at the Institute for Security Studies. There is another coup that is happening in West Africa. This time, the country is Gabon. Why is it always that area? Do stay tuned to Hilaal Live.